Hi, it's 4 o'clock in the morning in the second week of August, so it's still pretty dark, although there's a slight glow in the sky as dawn's coming up. It's always a lot more difficult to find things in the dark than in the daylight, so I used the postcode to get to this location using the car's built-in GPS. But having got this far, I then used what 3 words to find the dirt track that I want, and I worked out what 3 words it was from the internet the night before. So you then bring out your smartphone and use what 3 words. It's my favourite way currently of locating a specific location. So I'm pretty confident that in front of me is the dirt track that I'm looking for.
So I arrived about 1 hour before the 4:30 meet time, and once I'd found the gate I had a quick sleep and then went back to the gate for 4:30, where there was already a queue of fellow photographers waiting to go in. We are at the Horn Mill Osprey hide in Leicestershire. As you can see, it's not a very large pool in front of you, and ospreys visit this site every single day. There are 2 sessions every day, a morning and an evening. You can do one, the other, or both, but you have to pay separately for them. The hide is large enough for 6 photographers and very spacious and comfortable. Nice office chairs. And you get a little bit of entertainment while you're waiting. You may have little egrets or kingfishers sitting around as you're waiting for the osprey. The time of the sessions varies depending upon the time of year, but when I was there it was from 4:30 in the morning till 8:30. The pond in front of you is not very large, so you don't need a big lens. I was using the 40 to 150 2.8, which gives you the advantage of a faster shutter speed in low light. There is a watcher outside of the hide, and when the ospreys are approaching, you get a radio message. Sometimes the osprey does dive directly into the water, but when I was there it always landed on one of 2 branches where it sat and assessed the distance it got to dive to strike a fish, moving its head from side to side to help make that assessment. Now when we first sat down in the hide, I made the decision I was only going to go as high as 6400 ISO with my OM-1 camera. I'm very confident that the quality is good at 6400, and when I've gone higher I don't particularly like the quality, especially in low light. However, I still hadn't been able to process the pictures in my favourite RAW processing software, which is DxO Pure Raw, because they hadn't got a profile for the OM-1 yet, and I'm still waiting for it. So the first dive that we had, my shutter speed was a 40th of a second, but I decided I'll stick to that. These will be the arty type pictures if they come out. When I looked at those pictures afterwards, they weren't very good and I deleted them all. But by the later dives, I was getting 0.002 of a second at that ISO and was very happy with the quality. A few days later, DxO Pure Raw was updated so it would process the OM-1 files. If I'd have known it was about to become available, I would have shot at a much higher ISO, because I really rate DxO Pure Raw. The number of dives you get per session does vary, but I believe we had 5 dives that morning. All of these images are processed using the camera's own RAW converter, OM Workspace, and I never did go back and redo them in DxO Pure Raw. However, on my next trip out, I went to Martinmere, up in Lancashire, and I didn't have a lot of success with wild birds, so I ended up in the captive collection and I pushed the ISO to 25,600 for the entire day just to test it out. And I felt this was the ideal test. Underneath this tree there's some moorhens in really dark, deep shadow. Just the sort of testing conditions I really needed. Now these next 4 pictures of a moorhen are not pictures you would normally ever consider taking. It was just far too dark. At this high ISO you still get a reasonable shutter speed. It was around 2500th of a second for each picture, and the quality is not great, but the lighting was appalling. And I've said this before about testing high ISOs. If you test it in good light, you get a totally different impression of its abilities. So here's a moorhen out in the sun, same ISO, and I think it's very, very impressive. I never dreamt that I'd be shooting at ISOs this high. We'll just look at a handful of pictures. A coot and a mallard. And then from the captive collection, I didn't actually know what this was at first, but then the adult was standing next to it, so then it was obvious, a bar-headed goose. Now, none of these pictures are keepers. I'm not likely to hang on to any of them. It was just a test, but it's really given me the confidence that next time I'm doing an Osprey very early in the morning when the light's poor, I'm quite happy to shoot at 25,600 ISO. Now we'll have a quick look at DxO Pure Raw, but just to show you the folder where all these pictures are, you can see the ISO down in the bottom left hand corner, and whichever of these pictures in this folder I click on, they're all 25,600. Now this is what I really like about DxO Pure Raw. I don't have to do anything. It's very, very simple to use. I don't have to move any sliders, tick any boxes, turn any dials. I just let it get on with it. So we'll open a few pictures. I won't open very many because we'll have to wait for the thumbnails to load up, although it is very quick. We'll just do a few of them. There we are. Now all you've got to do is go up top left hand corner, you hit process photos. I always leave the quality on the top quality, never messed about with the others at all. In the new version you do get a couple of other options which I just leave ticked. And the output format, normally I'd be outputting to DNG, but here I'm going to output as a JPEG. And you've got to tell it which folder you want to save the pictures in. Now the only thing I don't like about DxO Pure Raw is it renames my files, and I find that very frustrating. I batch rename all of my pictures. The file name is very important. I don't want a bit of software to start changing it for me. But it's very quick. Those pictures will be done in just a couple of minutes or so, and they'll all be noise free and nice and sharp, and there's no work on my behalf. It's all done for me. And I think it's all very impressive, especially for Micro Four Third cameras, which aren't supposed to be very good at high ISOs. Thanks for watching.